I'd like to call the Planning Committee meeting to order. Okay, we'll try to do this fast so we can get out in case anybody has an athletic event you want to go watch. We'll begin with BL 2017-736. Sponsors Cooper and Allen adopts the 2017, 2018 through 2022 and 2023 capital improvements budget for fiscal year 2017. Cooper and Allen, I believe we need to defer this. Yes, until we will defer this to track with the budget. Defer to June 13th. Do you have a motion? Right. All right. Do we have a motion to defer? Great. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any against? Bill is deferred till June 13th. Next is RS 2017-730, sponsors O'Connell, Cooper, and Allen. This authorizes the Director of Public Property to purchase a portion of property for the benefit of Metro Nashville Public Schools. I have a proposed amendment that corrects the changes the acreage from 0.05 to 0.5. Do I have a motion for the amendment? Thank you. Is it moved and seconded? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? Do you have a motion to approve the bill as amended? Great. And second? Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Next is RS 2017-731, sponsors Cooper, Allen, and Hurt. Approves an option agreement to purchase property owned by Hope Park Church. And have a letter from the sponsor to approve. And I have Councilmember Mina Johnson. Well, I need a motion first. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a technicality, because we did move to defer the capital improvement plan and capital spending plan. So I think it would be prudent for us to defer this resolution to track with the budget as well.
Thank you.
So I would like to move to defer to June 20th meeting.
June 20th meeting. All right, that's moved and seconded. Councilmember Sherry Weiner.
Thank you for allowing me to speak since I'm not on the committee. There is a contractual deadline that needs to be adhered to. The bonds have to be notified for 30 days. We have an end date that is contractually stipulated. Mike, if you can speak to that, please. We cannot defer this past the 13th.
That is correct, and this is simply an option agreement for the acquisition. It's not the actual acquisition itself. So,
thank you. So I would request that we please do not do anything but pass this so we can move on to other things. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brett Withers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the idea of having everything track with the budget. We just recommended approval of a similar option agreement for another school and did not have a similar motion. And I think that it just makes sense to keep moving forward with this. This site selection, my understanding is, was unanimously recommended for approval by the school board after quite a bit of public discussion. And so I know some folks have concerns about that, but I would encourage this committee to defer to the public vetting that was done at the school board public hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. Ooh, a few more people in the queue. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think my question might be very similar to Councilman Withers. I might ask the folks that are seeking deferral here for some clarification on the nature of this, considering that we have done similar things before. I'm not sure that tracking with the budget on this particular item is perhaps as meaningful as the major pieces of the budget process that we go through on a regular basis. So if there's additional comment, I'd love some clarity on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are other people wishing to speak. Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I basically was going to say what Councilman Withers says, because it has been approved unanimously by the school board, and I would prefer that we move forward. And we have a contract that we need to adhere to, and I move that we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Or vote, not move, I'm sorry.
Then we move forward. Councilmember Johnson, do you want to speak again? You're recognized.
Thank you. The difference between 730 and 731 is Resolution 730 to acquire the property. It was FY17 budget and CIB. And unlike this, 731 is FY18 budget, so it was not approved yet. So that was my only concern. And also, I would like to have a clarification of the contract, because the information about the deadline, I was not aware that we really have to rush into within 30 days. I thought we had 90 days to seal the deal with this contract. So if I can give the deadline, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I think Councilmember Weiner may have the answer to that. Councilmember Weiner.
So, yeah, let me respond to a couple things. First of all, this isn't being rushed into by any stretch of the imagination. This project has been in play and working for at least 3 years, if not longer. And we've had a multitude of community meetings, so there's been nothing rushed into with regard to this, number one. Number two, Mike, can you speak to the specific date? I've seen the contract, but can you speak to the specific date, please?
It is a July deadline, but it's the option that you purchase with that option is a 90-day period within which to complete it. So it's not 90 days from today or 90 days from approval. It's 90 days from the acquisition of the option.
So with that said, and with the understanding that the school board has fully vetted this and unanimously approved it, I would be ever so appreciative for your vote to move it forward now. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jameson, procedural question. So we had a motion to approve, then we had a motion to defer.
So the motion to defer takes precedence. You'll have to vote on the motion to defer, and then depending on the outcome, go to the second.
Okay, thank you. So the motion to defer takes precedent unless it's withdrawn. We would need to vote on the motion to defer. Okay, I don't hear withdrawal. So we are voting on the motion. Oops, Councilmember Rosenberg, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like Councilwoman Weiner said, this was approved unanimously by the school board, also supported by the director of school, the mayor's office, the council members representing most of the students who would be affected by this, including from North Nashville and inside the cluster itself. This project comes on the heels of 9 community meetings over 2 years on this topic, a wide range of other engagement efforts, and I would join many other council members in asking for a no vote on this deferral motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, we will vote on the motion to defer. All those in favor of I think it was a deferral to June 13th, please indicate by raising your hand just to be sure. In favor to vote, okay. Thank you. Any opposed to deferral? Okay, deferral fails. You got all that? Okay, I think it's 9-1. So we are now on the motion to approve. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of approving RS 2017-731, raise your hand. Okay. Great. Any opposed? Great. Motion is recommended. On schedule. Next is RS 2017-733, sponsors O'Connell, Elrod, and Allen. This authorizes Messer Construction to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 615 6th Avenue North. I have a letter from the sponsor to approve. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is RS 2017-734, sponsors O'Connell, Elrod, and Allen, authorizes Whiskey Bent Saloon, LLC, to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 306 Broadway. I have a letter from the sponsor to approve. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Resolution is recommended. Okay.
Very left, so.
No, on the committee.
That's right.
Great. Next is RS 2017-735, sponsors O'Connell, Elrod, and Allen, authorizes 222 2nd Avenue LLC to construct and install an aerial and underground encroachment at 222 2nd Avenue South. I have a letter from the sponsor to approve. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Resolution is recommended. Next is RS 2017-736, sponsors Murphy, Elrod, and Allen, authorizes Thistle Farms Incorporated to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 5122 Charlotte Avenue. I have a letter from the sponsor to approve. Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Resolution is recommended. Next is we're on to bills on second reading, if I haven't seen any pages. No. Yes, so next is BL 2017-687, sponsors Elrod, Weiner, and Hurt. Amends the Metro Code establishing a process and procedure for naming public buildings, structures, and spaces of Metro. Was there a deferral on that? Okay, I have a letter to approve. It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Councilmember Brett Withers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question perhaps from Mr. Jameson could help to explain. I know there's sort of a longstanding pattern of not naming buildings after living persons. And one of the things I just wanted to seek clarification about is section 1326.020, and it would be item number 3, more or less the foregoing provision prohibiting the naming of a public building, structure, or space after living persons shall not apply to persons who have made a significant and long-lasting contribution to Nashville and Davidson County and our history and culture through deeds, words, or inspiration, and therefore deserve a high and enduring honor. I guess my question is, how is that defined, and how are we not going to continue to be in deliberations such as that which we have recently experienced?
You're absolutely correct. I think that's one of the reasons that is prompting Councilman Elrod to meet with the Metro Historical Commission. The intended 2 exceptions, one was the philanthropic exception, so if a particularly wealthy individual decides to bequeath Metro with a structure, but adds that he or she would like to have his name on it, that may be something that the council wants to encourage. The second one was if a structure, I think the intent was if the structure is particularly affiliated with an individual associated with that structure or space who through their own efforts, perhaps not a donation, but through their other efforts is to be recognized. That unfortunately is a rather broad exception, and I think he intends to address that, but he's still waiting to meet with Metropolitan Historical Commission, and I don't know where they've reached a conclusion.
And so we may, and under those circumstances, be looking for a recommendation from the Historical Commission similar to the way that we do for street renamings?
Correct. I would anticipate a deferral from the sponsor tomorrow, however.
Thank you.
Okay, so it would be deferred on second reading.
My understanding is he will.
Okay, and would this type of bill be amendable on third reading?
No.
This would not be amendable on third reading. Okay. At this point, we have a letter to approve, so we'll keep moving. I see more people in the queue. Councilmember Fabian Bednay, in his own seat.
So this is going to be weird to you all, but immigrants, we haven't been here long enough to have anybody dead. But we deserve, some of us, recognition to have some buildings named after people who have done a lot for this city. So if we end up passing this legislation, we won't be able to have a name that reflects the plurality and diversity of the city because we just cut ourselves out of being able to do it by not wanting to have an argument in the council. So I'm going to ask you not to support this and to vote against it and to trust yourselves to make this type of a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is more a question. I think one section says the building and street is, or the name is limited to Davidson County resident. So that means in the future, we won't be able to honor Martin Luther King or, all other great people. So I do have a little concern on that as well. But I understand the sponsor's intent is defy it. So would that be better for us to pass it and ask the sponsor to defy it, or can we as a committee defy it?
You can as a committee defer it, and in that case it would be binding upon the sponsor under 23, Rule 23.
Yeah, because of so much unanswered question and so many questions regarding this ordinance as it's written right now, I would like to recommend to defy it.
Okay, we have a recommendation for deferral. A few more council members in the queue about, do you wish to speak about the deferral? Councilmember Sledge? Sure.
I support the deferral.
Okay. Councilman Vercher.
Thank you, Chair. I support the deferral.
Whoop, didn't mean to turn you off. You're back.
I support the deferral also, and I understand the sponsor's intent. Would like to remind my committee members and my other colleagues that's in the chamber, the matter that brought this legislation forward, I asked at the time for my affirmative vote that we would not bring forward such legislation to take away the opportunity of any of us bringing forward anyone that we deem appropriate to have something named after them or have them honored as well. And it speaks to Council Lady Johnson's concern too with some of the language in the legislation. I think we'll be pigeonholing ourselves. But I say all that to say, you know, the matter that came before us, it did bring about great discussion and dialogue about how we should, as a body, consider things moving forward. I don't think we need legislation to get us there, though. So I support the deferral.
Thank you. Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Jameson, didn't you say earlier that the sponsor, Mr. Elrod, was planning to defer the bill?
I understand that he is scheduling a meeting with the Metropolitan Historical Commission before this was approved on second. I don't think he's had a chance to have that happen, so my assumption is that he intends to defer tomorrow.
Well, I think that we should just give the sponsor an opportunity to defer and not act as a committee. And I mean, we've had some discussion about it, but knowing that the councilman is familiar and aware of the sensitivity of all concerns that have been made, I would like to lend towards him and support his deferral when he brings it up tomorrow.
Thank you. Councilmember Brett Withers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Jameson, could you just clarify for the committee, perhaps one more time, procedurally, what's the difference between a committee recommendation of deferral and the sponsor recommendation of deferral in terms of, you know, sometimes we intend to schedule meetings, but it takes longer than we think, or we need additional discussion. And sometimes if we defer something a couple of times to enable that discussion, it's indefinitely deferred. What would be the advantages or disadvantages of, in fact, for the sponsor of waiting at least until we have the Metro Historical Commission meeting that he's wanting to have before we bring it back for a second vote? That's number one. And number two, I guess for my colleagues, I always want to support my colleagues, but you know, we could potentially end up having the same exact discussion in a much more robust and repetitive way on the floor tomorrow. Whereas if we do support a deferral to answer some of these questions, that might help to contain more of that detail within the committee meeting so that the floor deliberation itself is clearer. But if you could speak to the point of the procedural benefits of a committee deferral relative to a sponsor deferral.
Sure. So imagine that this committee right now moved to approve based on the assumption that the councilman was going to defer it tomorrow, which is certainly in keeping with protocol. That's the end of this committee's input. You've offered your approval, and when it comes back, it may come back in an altered form, but not necessarily come back before this committee. A vote by this committee to defer it is absolutely binding. If you do it for one meeting, then the sponsor has no choice. It would also come back before this committee. So you'd have assurance that it would be deferred tomorrow and assurance that it would come back before this committee, presumably after he's had a chance to engage with the Historical Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. And I do see that Mr. Walker is in the chambers. Would Mr. Walker perhaps be able to speak to the committee and let us know if it, with all the budget and everything that we have going on, if it might be feasible for him to schedule that commission meeting with Councilmember Elrod in that time frame?
Certainly. Mr. Walker, thank you for being here.
No worries. Yes, that meeting is scheduled for June 19th at our offices. So the Councilman Elrod plans to come then and discuss it with our commission because they too had some concerns about the bill, the way it's currently written.
Thank you.
And so then that meeting would take place on the same day as the next Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee, perhaps a little earlier in the day?
Correct.
Yes, it takes place at noon that day.
at noon. So we may have a recommendation that perhaps you could bring to us on the 19th.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. For those reasons, I would be inclined to support a one meeting deferral from the committee.
Thank you. Mr. O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think from where I sit, I've heard enough concerns with the specific wording of this legislation that I would actually be a little concerned if this committee gave it a formal approval. I think deferring is actually a better strategy for the committee, especially without the sponsor here. I think it allows him to carry forward and earn a recommendation with free of concerns if that's where we are. So, I will say, as for my part, I am one of the people that has concerns about the current wording of the legislation. I think deferral is the appropriate strategy here. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the good discussion. Seeing no one else in the queue, we are voting on a one meeting deferral. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is deferred one meeting. Next is BL 2017-691, sponsors Murphy, Elrod, and Allen. This authorizes Metro to abandon existing easement rights for property located at 3900 Alabama Avenue, formerly 39th Avenue North. Do I have a motion? Been moved and seconded, and I have some people in the queue to discuss. Councilmember Vercher?
Thank you, Chair. I believe that the sponsor wanted this to be deferred
One meeting?
one meeting.
Okay, Councilmember. You're recognized.
I'm sorry, I had gotten confused and forgot that it was coming back up today and didn't get a chance to speak with the property owner. And so I thank Council Lady Vercher for making a committee deferral for me.
So that we can have more time to hear from the owner.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So we have a motion from Councilmember Vercher to defer. Can we record it that way? Defer one meeting? Any more discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is deferred one meeting. Next is BL 2017-731, sponsors Pulley, Cooper, and others, authorizes the acquisition of certain right-of-way easements, drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights for use in public projects of the Metro government, initially for the purposes of the Lone Oak Road sidewalk improvements. And I have a letter from the sponsor to approve. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I would like to ask a question, if I might. In my most recent sidewalk project, we went through this process and then later came back and approved funding to pay for right-of-way acquisition. And in that particular project, there had been a process by the neighborhood to sign off on donating all of that easement. Is there anyone here from Public Works or Finance that could explain how that process works and when it's decided that the only payment will be for easement acquisition?
Follow up with Public Works
Okay,
tomorrow.
all right. That was just something I would like information on, so if you can ask him, let me know, I'd appreciate it. No, seeing no other discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2017-732, sponsors Elrod and Allen, authorizes Metro to abandon existing sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements, and to accept a new sanitary sewer manhole and any associated easements for property located at 2400 Gallatin Pike. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Now we're on bills on third reading. BL 2017-655, sponsors Murphy, changes 13.12 acres from OG and RM40 to SP zoning for property located at 109 and 123 Bosley Springs Road to permit a mixed-use development. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. And I hear that there is an amendment. Councilmember Murphy.
Yes, we have an amendment that I would like to move. And what this amendment does is this is zoning that was passed under the previous council and is coming back before us to make sure that floodway buffers and some stormwater issues are being taken care of. And so the Richland Creek Watershed Alliance has endorsed this new zoning SP in front of us with these slight tweaks. But the amendment that Councilman Cooper assisted in helping us work out is going to ensure and guarantee that part of this property, which is the old KC Club, Knights of Columbus Club, will be a greenway, and there will not be a use and occupancy permit until that is transferred over to Nashville Greenways, Metro Nashville. And so I'm really excited. This is a huge win for my neighborhood. And I'd really like to thank all the community partners and my fellow council member at large and constituent, John Cooper, for helping me with this. And with that, I move this amendment and hope you will all support us getting more green space.
Excellent. Thank you. Seeing no one else in the queue on the amendment, all those in favor? Any opposed? All those on the bill as amended? Thank you. All those, it's been moved and seconded as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? Great. Seeing no other items on my list, are there any late filed items that we need to discuss? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Go Preds. Stay for the affordable housing meeting because we need a quorum.